Welcome back everyone to another Weather at a Glance video. In today's forecast, we are going to be going over what you can expect for the winter season of 2021 to 2022, all coming up in just a bit. All right, in our first slide, we're going to be taking a look at the precipitation outlook for the winter forecast of 2021 to 2022. And here you can see that we are only focusing on one slightly below average region here, and that's only for slightly below average due to this ENSO neutral pattern that could be coming up. So here in this region here, that stretches all the way from the Rio Grande River all the way up into Wyoming, and including some portions of, this is just east of Salt Lake City, so that is including Salt Lake City basically because it's right there, Denver, Colorado, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. So right here, you can expect slightly below average conditions. This doesn't mean you'll really notice anything with this precipitation, so keep that in mind. This won't be any drastic change or anything like that, but we are expecting some slightly below average precipitation, so do keep that in mind that some of those snowfall areas for those mountainous regions may be a bit lower than usual, but nothing too drastically changed. All right, in our next region, we're going to be taking a look at our slightly above average region here. So this is just before the above average region. So this is that light green region that surrounds the above average region here. And this includes New Orleans, Dallas, Texas, and all the other states around, including Tennessee, North Carolina, parts of northwestern Mississippi, Arkansas, and eastern Texas, including Louisiana, southern Alabama, and northwestern Florida, as well as southern Georgia and southern South Carolina. So here, this is where you're going to be expecting a bit of that slightly below or slightly above average precipitation, and this is not going to be, like we said for the slightly below average region, this is not going to be too much of a drastic change. You aren't really going to notice much here, but the occasional bit more precipitation with that ENSO neutral pattern. We do expect the subtropical jet stream to come across this region, sometimes converging with that polar jet stream, and this is going to be causing some stormy patterns as well with that cold air aloft and those warm, moist temperatures below. So a lot of rain could be forecasted here and some stormy activity as well. So keep that in mind throughout this winter that you could be seeing above average precipitation. Reduced snowfall for this area, slightly below average snowfall as we went over in our snowfall forecast because of those warmer temperatures. All right, and in our final region for the precipitation outlook for the winter forecast of 2021, we're expecting above average precipitation for this area. This includes Atlanta, Georgia, eastern Texas, Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, almost all of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, as well as southeastern Tennessee. So here, you can expect a good bit of that above average precipitation. So here, there will be noticeably above average precipitation here. This means that you will be noticing a good deal more precipitation than you usually get, so a lot more rainfall. Again, a little bit less snowfall than usual this year due to those warmer temperatures, but here you can expect a good deal bit more of that rainfall. This is just southeast of Dallas, Texas, so we must note that that might also change. It might go a little bit more further west towards Dallas, Texas. So keep that in mind, Dallas, Texas, you might be in that above average region as well, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to keep it right here, even north of New Orleans, and we're just going to keep this right here. This is where that subtropical jet stream is going to kind of be shoving that moisture, especially with those different converging atmospheric temperatures, such as the cold air aloft and the warm air at the surface. So we could be seeing some of that stormy patterns as well, maybe a couple of small storm events. So keep that in mind. We could see some of those stormy patterns coming through the wintertime as well. All right, on our next series of slides, we're going to be checking the temperature outlook for the winter forecast. So here in our first slide, you can see that we are covering the slightly below average region, which is this light blue region here. And this includes most of the north central United States all the way down to the mid-Atlantic, and including all of the almost all of the northeastern United States. Of course, we see that above average region next, but this includes New York City, Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Illinois, and Fargo, North Dakota. So this is going to be including these areas as well. And then you see over here, just north of Portland, Oregon, we do see the slightly below average temperature region as well, and this includes Seattle, Washington, northern portions of Idaho, and northwestern portions of Oregon as well. So we do see that slightly below average temperature region for here as well. So do keep that in mind. We do have areas in the western United States that are forecast to have slightly below average temperature regions due to those, due to that jet stream pattern. We do see the Pacific jet stream coming across there, and sometimes the polar jet stream can bring down cooler air to those regions as well. And seeing as how the Pacific jet stream is usually more of a drier jet stream at times, keep that in mind. So not always, but at times it could be drier, and that will generally keep the area colder, since we have already drier conditions and colder dense air can move into the area a lot more easily than it would have with more moist air. So for our next region, we're going to be going into the below average region. So this area is only for portions of northeastern Missouri, northeastern Wisconsin, all of Michigan, northern Ohio, and northern Pennsylvania, as well as New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So we see all of those states in this below average region. So here you will be noticing noticeable below average temperatures. This means that it will be likely a lot colder than it usually is due to how the polar jet stream is going to be stretching fairly far south this winter. So we could see it at times stretching all the way down into even Tennessee. So let me give you a drawing of this. You can definitely see that the jet stream will likely be coming down from the north through the Dakotas and then coming down through Missouri and kind of keeping itself over Kentucky. So this will be causing some kind of flip-flop conditions here as well. So that means that you will be expecting some 50-50 type conditions here, warm and cold temperatures throughout the mid-Atlantic region as well. That will be causing a bit of unstable stuff going on in the mid-Atlantic region. But for here, most of the time in the winter, you guys will be a lot fairly more cold in these regions. So the below average region, you will be noticing maybe about 5 to 10 degrees colder than normal, even at times up to 15 to 20 degrees colder, depending on the temperature swings that come down into the United States in the northeastern and north central United States. So keep that in mind. The Great Lakes region will be fairly cold this winter, as well as the northeastern United States. So keep that in mind. Areas including Boston, just north of New York City, north of Pittsburgh, and northeast of Chicago, as well as including far east of Fargo, North Dakota. So we don't see anything happening there, but far east of Fargo, as you can see over here, up here in this region, we do have very cold regions there. So keep that in mind. If you do live in this area, keep that in mind that you might have a fairly colder winter this year than you normally would have in your average winter. All right, in our next slide, we're going to be now covering the slightly above average region. So here, this does include Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, Oklahoma City, and Salt Lake City, as well as just east of San Francisco and including Los Angeles, California. So I'm not going to go over all the states here because, as you can see, pretty much the entire southern United States, except for some portions of California, is going to be in that above or slightly above average to above average region here in the southern United States. And this is going to be due to that kind of converging. So we're going to see this jet stream, the polar jet stream coming down, and it's not going to be like our usual La Nina polar jet stream, which would typically come in from this direction over here. So we're going to see, we usually see it come up through Portland, Oregon, and then kind of swerve down around here through the mid-Atlantic. So we're not going to see that this year. That's definitely not going to happen this year most of the time. We are expecting an ENSO neutral pattern to come through with the fading La Nina pattern, and this is going to be likely coming down through here and causing these areas to be a bit more colder up there and keeping the warm air down here in the southeastern United States. That jet stream is going to lock in that warm air in the southeastern United States, sometimes preventing snowfall, as we talked about before. Now, the reason I have this region over here in this little break in between the cold and the warm is because of that specific jet stream. So this at times will be locking the cold air as well up there in Seattle and Washington and all of those areas, and locking the warm air down there in Nevada and areas like that. Now, don't misunderstand this. This is not talking about 70-degree weather here in New Mexico and Nevada and all of those areas. We're talking about fairly warmer temperatures. So you typically might see some 30 to 40-degree temperatures up in Idaho and areas like that. But right now, you can expect maybe about 50 to possibly even 60 at times. So we are going through a colder pattern. We're going in a negative PNA pattern right now with some of those very cold temperatures out there in the western United States. But keep in mind that will change likely, and we will be flip-flopping and kind of bringing that warmer air back to the western United States. So do keep that in mind as we move into the winter months, anywhere from January all the way to about March. That's what the pattern could foretell with this. All right, and on the final slide that we have with our temperature outlook, here we're going to be looking at above average temperatures. So this also includes the far southeastern United States. So what you can expect in this region is going to be some noticeably above average temperatures here. So this includes just east of Los Angeles, parts of southeastern California, up through most of Nevada, and then coming down through southwestern Utah and almost the entire southwestern half of New Mexico, including Albuquerque, New Mexico. So this region here, you're going to be noticing above average temperatures, which means that you will likely see 60, possibly at times even 70-degree temperatures, especially if you're in the Arizona region here during the winter. But in Nevada, we could see that as well. Nevada usually typically is fairly cold in the winter, but we could see that as well. So instead of your typical 40 to 50-degree temperatures, we could expect some swings up to 60 to 70-degree temperatures. So do keep that in mind. And then down here in the New Orleans area, fairly the same thing all the way down to Miami, Florida. So we see this entire region right here. This region here can expect some changes in temperatures as well. You guys can expect fairly warm temperatures. So really no snowfall this year, obviously, for Florida. We normally don't see that, but there's definitely no chance for snowfall this season in Florida, seeing as how we're going to keep that fairly warm, especially with that subtropical jet stream. So not only will the polar jet stream be locking in all that warm air to the south, we will have that subtropical jet stream be bringing some more warm, moist air through the Tampa area and keeping it over Florida, and often even up into the New Orleans area and down through Miami. So we're going to have this subtropical jet stream kind of keeping itself over Florida, and that's really going to be carrying a lot of this warm, moist air over the area, and rarely will we ever see any cold temperatures move down into the Florida area this winter. All right, now comes the exciting part. We move into our overall forecast for the winter forecast of 2021 to 2022, and here in our first region, we're going to be talking about this chilly condition that's going to be over portions of Washington and northern Oregon. So here you can see, we're going to outline this real quick. Just north of Portland, Oregon, and this includes Seattle, Washington as well. So we have this region here. Basically, you can already understand what this means. This is going to be chillier conditions. Now, this is not going to be freezing cold and snowy conditions. This is going to be some chillier conditions, so maybe into the 30s and 40s. Of course, if you're on those mountaintops, that gets below zero sometimes. But we're talking about on ground near the Seattle area, in flat areas like that. We definitely do see some of those chillier conditions here. So keep that in mind. A chilly winter is in play, seeing as how the Pacific jet stream will be locking in that cold air to the north. You guys can expect some chillier conditions up there this winter. All right, on our next region, we're taking a look at our chilly and occasionally wet. So this Pacific jet stream is going to be coming through that area, and at times I did say that obviously the Pacific jet stream can carry some good storms across. So what that means is some large low pressure systems across this region. So at times, this area, including Salt Lake City and up here through Idaho and into Montana, we see that chance for chilly and occasionally wet. So the Pacific jet stream is going to be sometimes sweeping even farther south than this into California. So this could be colder still. So keep that in mind. This could be part of that chillier region as well. So this is chilly and occasionally wet because the wet conditions seem to be taking a turn for Oregon as well. So Oregon, you might be seeing, even though we didn't put that on our slightly above average region here, you could be seeing occasionally slightly above average precipitation, just occasionally, not too often though. So that's why we didn't include that on our precipitation forecast. All right, and on our next region, we're taking a look at our warm and dry region here. So this includes pretty much all of the southwestern United States here, California, southeastern Oregon, all of Nevada, and then down through Utah as well, southwestern Utah, and then through pretty much all of western Arizona, including some parts of eastern Arizona as well. All of California except for northern California, and this is going to be due to that Pacific jet stream locking in the warm air to the south and fairly dry conditions. Occasionally, we will see some rainy conditions throughout the northern parts of this region, not the southern parts down near Los Angeles, but the northern parts we could see some of that precipitation come through, and some low pressure systems, such as more recently, I think on Sunday or so, we're going to see a large low pressure system come through this October. So obviously you can understand that there will be times where we are going to see those type of low pressure systems come on here, but very rarely. So we're going to keep this at warm and dry, so fairly dry. You're not going to be noticing too much precipitation here, and overall a pretty nice region to be in. It's not going to be too hot. It's just going to be fairly warm and pretty much dry as well. So very nice weather. All right, and now we're going to be including this region here, the dry region, which is going to be for Albuquerque, New Mexico, almost Denver, Colorado, and east of Salt Lake City. So here you can see that this is including north of the Rio Grande River and all the way up throughout the Colorado River Basin. So this region can expect some slightly below average precipitation as we called for in our forecast, in our precipitation forecast. But here you can notice some generally drier conditions, and this does include some of those mountainous regions as well, so do keep that in mind. Of course, the mountaintops can expect a good bit of that snowfall as well, but fairly around this region, below the mountaintops, you can definitely expect some drier conditions to take over this region, and overall, you can expect drier conditions throughout here. So a little bit more drier than the warm and dry region over here that includes San Francisco and Los Angeles, but not too much drier, just fairly dry conditions throughout the winter months. All right, on our next slide, we're going to take a look at the mountain snow region. So this includes Great Falls, Montana, and Denver, Colorado as well. So this includes all of the mountainous regions in the Rocky Mountains and even all the way up into Washington as well. So here, we usually include this region every winter forecast because we always get mountain snow here. So definitely keep that in mind. We will have low pressure systems coming down here and bringing even more snowfall, but generally, the occasional snowfall is definitely going to be very common here in these mountainous regions. Despite the drier conditions surrounding the mountains, we are going to see those mountainous regions here. We are going to see a lot of snowfall here. So 70 plus inches for pretty much this entire region here. So keep that in mind. Great Falls, Montana, this region will be seeing a lot of that snowfall. So a couple feet this winter in total. And if you live in this mountainous regions, I know not too many people do, but if you do live in these mountainous regions, just expect a good fair bit of snowfall, especially whenever those systems come over and the mountains kind of strengthen their development on the eastern side. You can definitely expect some snowfall on the eastern side of that as well on these mountains, so keep that in mind. Mountain development, snow, that is going to be a big factor this winter. We will see a lot of that this winter. All right, and just east of the mountains, as we were just talking about, we're going to see those low pressure systems swoop in from both the west and the north, and that's going to be causing frequent winter storms here. So I do believe in this region we are going to be expecting our frequent winter storms region here. That's going to be just east of Great Falls, Montana, coming down through Montana, eastern Montana, and eastern Wyoming, down through northeastern Colorado and through Kansas, northern Kansas, and all the way to St. Louis, Missouri, then including Omaha, Iowa, and all the way back up into most of the Dakota region. So we're going to be expecting frequent winter storms here. Rapid City is right in the heart of this, so keep that in mind, Rapid City. You're going to be getting a fairly good bit of punches packed to you by these winter storms that are going to be coming through. Now, at times, with those warmer temperatures affecting up to the north from the Gulf, we may see a good bit of rain as well, but we're going to keep this fairly colder this winter, so you can definitely expect some of those colder temperatures to come through, and that really will be locking in these winter storms and fueling them with that moisture from the Gulf, and with those colder temperatures taking over, we could see frequent winter storms here. So that's why we included that region. All right, in our next region, we're going to be talking about the cold swings region. So this was very common last winter as well when we saw that big winter storm come through. Now, we are not expecting that. I have to cover that in this winter forecast. We are not expecting anything like the Texas winter storm that came through last winter. That is a very rare event. We are not expecting that to happen this winter. You guys could see a winter storm here, not out of the question, but definitely nothing like that we saw last winter. So moving on into this region, we're going to be taking a look at the colder temperatures that could be coming down into this region. This includes even New Mexico, all the way including the Texas Panhandle, and all the way down into Oklahoma, Arkansas, and throughout southwestern Missouri. So here, with that jet stream coming down here, this will be locking in some colder air whenever the polar jet stream swoops down south, and this will be bringing some colder conditions to the northern areas, especially including Kansas. So Kansas, you are in this region. Kansas is going to be experiencing probably a fairly colder winter this winter, so keep that in mind. Now, we're not talking sub-zero temperatures, but we are talking about 30s to 40s sometimes, so keep that in mind. This could get a little bit more colder this winter than you guys normally expect. Oklahoma City, you are in this region as well, so we could get some cold swings as well from those Arctic conditions, especially whenever our Arctic oscillation drags below into the negatives, we could see those colder conditions come down here as well. All right, and now on to our largest region out of the entire winter forecast. Here's the cold punches region. So this is a fairly large region. If you live in this region, you already know what this means. This is where all those below average temperature regions are within the winter forecast, and here we see even as far as St. Louis, Missouri, including Washington, D.C., and of course up through Boston and New York, but they're in a different region here. We are going to be covering a lot of land with these colder temperatures here. So all of these areas, including some portions of these other regions, are going to be experiencing this cold punches region, and this is going to be where those main, very strong cold fronts come through, which means that there's going to be very cold, dense air coming through the area, often bringing a lot of storms to the area, a lot of winter storms, and often bringing very, very cold temperatures behind those cold fronts. So keep that in mind this winter. If you do live in this region, you are going to be experiencing very cold temperatures at times, down into the 20s, maybe even to the single digits at times, especially depending on if you live up here in the northern, north central United States and into the northeastern United States, including as well as northern Michigan. So areas in the most northern parts of this region can't expect those single-digit temperatures, and then as far south as Washington, D.C., we can expect those 20 to 30-degree temperatures as well. Not out of the question. All right, in our next region, we're taking a look at our mix-and-match region. So oftentimes, this is referred to as the winter battle zone, but to us, it's the mix-and-match region here. So this is where everything is going to be coming into play with cold temperatures, warm temperatures. This is going to be fairly a mess here, oftentimes bringing some of those sleet and icy conditions due to the different converging atmospheres over this. So this is going to be a very intense region at times, not with winter storms, but with, again, those icy conditions because of the warmer temperatures in the middle of the atmosphere. So it's going to freeze up in the upper levels of the atmosphere, the precipitation, and then it's going to come down into the middle levels of the atmosphere oftentimes and converge with that warmer air, unfreezing and becoming water, and then it's going to likely freeze at the surface, causing icy conditions here. So keep in mind that could be this type of winter. Now, that's not always going to happen because, as I said, we will have warmer temperatures coming in here. So you could expect 60 to 70s even during the winter. That especially in the northern parts, you could probably see some of those 50 to 60-degree temperatures up here, especially in southern West Virginia. But keeping this down in the south in the Tennessee area, including the Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains as well, you guys can expect some slightly warmer conditions throughout the winter when that warm air advects. But then, of course, cold temperatures when that northern cold air advects down from the north. So keep that in mind. We will have a bit of a battle going on here between the two converging atmospheres, and that will be causing some rough conditions within this mix and match region. All right, moving on to our next region, we're looking at the warm and wet region. This is going to be our stormy region. Now, that we didn't name it the stormy region because obviously storms are not going to be frequent here, severe thunderstorms, but we will be expecting very wet conditions across here, and obviously because of those warm air temperatures, lightning will be coming into play. So here within this region, you will definitely be seeing some of those wetter conditions because of those. And here especially, you can expect very wet conditions whenever those storms move through. So not strong single-celled thunderstorms. We're talking about very widespread wet conditions here. So a lot of precipitation, maybe even some flooding action throughout the winter. We're not going to roll that out either because of some of these larger scale storms. But nothing should be too extreme. All right, now moving on to our next region, we're looking at our mostly warm region here. So this, including Dallas, Texas, and pretty much all of Texas, is going to be our fairly mostly warm region. So here you can expect nothing much more than warm, occasionally dipping down below 50 degrees, but we're not going to see that too often here. We're going to keep it around 50 degrees, especially in the southern areas. You're never going to see that temperature dip down below 70 down here in southern Texas. So, of course, times we could get down to the 60s whenever those really strong cold fronts come through, but mainly not below that. So we're going to be keeping this fairly warm in this region, and so it's going to be a very nice region to live in because there's not going to be, if you don't like winter that much, then this is going to be a nice region to live in because you're not going to be experiencing too much of that. Now, as we get into Arkansas in this little tight corner here, that will change. So don't get your hopes up that you won't be seeing always warm temperatures. You will be experiencing some of those colder temperatures as well. But as we see in this main region here, that's where the most of this warm action is going to be coming from, especially from the warm, moist air advecting northwest from the Gulf. All right, now moving into our most stormy region of the entire United States for thunderstorm-wise and severe weather. This winter, almost all of Florida, not including the Florida Panhandle, is going to be within this stormy region. So here, we are expecting stormy conditions. Now, as you saw last year, we did see a lot of those storms move through the winter. But here especially, we are going to be expecting some stormy conditions around here. We are expecting a good bit of rainfall to come through here. And really, this is going to be keeping this region slightly wet. We're not really going to put it in our above average precipitation region, but at times, this could be experiencing slightly above average precipitation, at times not. So it depends on what the polar jet stream is really doing at the time. But with that colder air aloft, with those cold fronts, that will be bringing some severe weather with it as well. So if you live in here, we might see a couple of anticyclonic tornadoes this season, which means that nothing too extreme, but definitely a couple possible weak funnel clouds and tornadoes that move through the area, especially water spouts with those type of winter storms. You guys are usually, with those wintertime storms, you guys are usually used to that, that stormy pattern in Florida. So keep that in mind. That will be a big effect this winter moving through Florida. All right, now we're moving into one of our most favorite regions here. This is the lake effect snow here. So if you are a snow lover, this is where you're going to want to be, because oftentimes this is where you'll be expecting those lake effect conditions here. So we're talking about including north central Wisconsin and most of the northern side of the Michigan Panhandle here. This is where you're going to be expecting that lake effect snow. On the western side of Michigan, on the farthest western side of Michigan, including Chicago, Illinois at times, we could expect those lake effect conditions. And then, of course, all the way from Ohio and down into Pennsylvania, northwestern Pennsylvania, and then moving through Buffalo, New York, and kind of ending there with that lake effect snow. So these are your regions to focus on. These regions here can expect some lake effect snow, a lot more snowfall. We could probably see up to 70 inches of snowfall plus this winter from the lake effect snow region, especially with those very strong cold fronts moving through and those warm conditions. We had a very warm summer this summer, so that means that we're going to be having that a good bit more lake effect snow possible due to how those lakes are holding onto those warm temperatures that will be giving off that heat and oftentimes bringing a good bit of lake effect snow to these regions. All right, and on our final region on our overall winter forecast map, we are looking at our nor'easter region. So again, if you are a snow lover, this is not as significant as the lake effect snow region, but we will be expecting occasional nor'easters to make through here. So if you don't know what that is a very strong cyclone, a low pressure system. It's a very strong low pressure system and cyclone, as we also know them as. And here you can be expecting very snowy conditions when those nor'easters move through. Now, we're not talking about every single week. We're talking about once a month, maybe twice a month. We could be seeing a nor'easter come through, possible. So keep that in mind. This is not a very frequent event, but when we do see them come through, they could be strong. As we through the hurricane season, we actually have seen more of a northern trend with these low pressure systems. So if these low pressure systems continue to carry up north along the Atlantic coast, those hurricane type conditions with snowfall can be expected. Now, we're not talking about 120 mile per hour wind gusts, but we could see along the coast, we could see up to 70 mile per hour wind gusts with some of these winter storms due to how wind accelerates over the water. So keep that in mind. We could see blizzard type conditions along the coastal areas of this region. So New York City, you're just at the southern part of that, not too much extreme there, but Boston, Massachusetts, all the way up to the southeastern coast of Maine, we could expect some of those snowy conditions as well from these nor'easter patterns, from these nor'easter systems that come through, and that could be keeping this area in above average snowfall as well. All right, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. I would ask you consider subscribing for more U.S. forecasts free of charge, and also I would ask you consider following the Weather at a Glance official Facebook page for more inside information and complimentary personal forecasts when you message me on my Weather at a Glance official Facebook page. Again, I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.